Hello there and welcome back. Please let me know if you can hear me, if you can hear the music. As also said previously, during the live streams I will continue to have the music because I can also hear it, and yeah, probably there are moments of awkward silence during a live stream when something is going wrong, and the last live stream, well, there were some things going wrong. However, in the end we managed to fix them, but then actually my streaming software just, well, decided to quit. And yeah, unfortunately, I had to end the stream, or it was ended by brute force, let me say. So it was already late and I didn't restart it. But what I want to say beforehand, so before we start anything, is that if this happens again today during the stream, I hope it will not. But if it happens, just I will probably restart the stream. But you probably will have to refresh or go to the channel homepage or to the YouTube homepage to actually, well, get some, well, to get the new live stream that just started or that will start. So yeah, that's the only thing that I wanted to say beforehand. And then before we get started, as you see in the title of the stream, this is a stream where we will do some live coding, of course. That's the main concept. And the idea, or what I want to do, is we already have this application that we have built during past live streams at, let's say, in the first half of the year, which is called CWK Social. And there we have started to create an API. Like I always said, like I would create it probably for a customer. And right now, since .NET 7 is out, with the new features in the minimal APIs that were not there previously in .NET 6, I was thinking, okay, let me try and see how it works to actually, or if it's possible to take what we have in the API and move the entire functionality into .NET 7 minimal API. And the reason for that is that just by, I don't know, watching some or reading some documentation or just investigating if, okay, this feature, how this feature works, how the other feature works, it's kind of like a little bit more difficult to get a clear understanding about, okay, is the .NET 7 minimal API ready for real applications or not? And to actually test this, I was thinking that the best way is to kind of like start this this type of mini project where I want to just port what we already have to the .NET 7 minimal API. And then if we go with this project forward, if everything's okay, then we'll continue just with the .NET 7 minimal API and probably will discontinue the controller-based API. But yeah, that's for, this is something that we'll decide a little bit later. However, guys, before we get started, really, I don't want this to be a monologue, so please use the chat and get involved. If you have any type of questions that you would like to ask, if you just want to say something, and if you, I don't know, maybe you just want to chat on a certain topic, well, technical, of course, that would be great. So please don't be shy and just use the chat, and yeah, just jump into the discussion, and let's also have some chats here together, because that's the whole point of a live stream, to actually have a little bit more interactivity. Otherwise, I could simply record a video, I guess. Okay, so Bogdan, hello. Why would you use minimal APIs for a medium big production project? I'm not sure if I would use them. That's why that's what I'm trying to actually figure out during this live stream. So yeah, that's what I try to understand. I feel like it's a lot of overhead setting a minimal API. Overhead? Okay, Bogdan, why do you think so? Because on the first impression is that actually, well, it's much easier to start. Like, if you look at the screen right now, we have a minimal API. So we already have an API here. I mean, we can even run it because it should work now. So those of you who were also part of the previous stream know that we had some problems with the mismatch in mediator versions. But yeah, after we have, well, upgraded all the mediators to the same version, then everything was okay. Cool. Let me build succeeded, so I'm not sure why it takes so long. Okay, Bogdan, setting them up the way you did in the previous video. I mean the video with the like the 2-hour course. Ah, yeah, but it's the same. I don't know. Probably you're right. So I don't say that you're not right, but it's kind of like the same like when you use controllers in a certain way. Like you have to set up your controllers. Like you have the default weather forecast, but all the other controllers you have to set them up yourself. And basically, yeah, actually that part with that part, if you mean the method that we use to automatically register all the registers where we use reflection, that's something that we actually have implemented also in the regular API, because it's a really great way to actually automate adding services, not have to care about what services are added and what services are not added. And it's also a great way to, well, actually keep your program.cs file clean, no matter if it's the minimal API or the regular API. So let me, in the meantime, just send a request. I see we have here another Bogdan. Hello, Bogdan. This is Bogdan Aldia. So we have this. Let me check if it's running on the correct port. So 7072. Let me just 7072. Okay, so that one is will be fine. And then app.builder map get weather forecast. I guess, yeah, it's an S that's missing here. So I would expect here, yes, 200. Okay. Okay, with the extension name, extensions methods. Yeah, but as it, for instance, I have used the exact same approach in my real applications when I work for customers. Like for me, that approach was very powerful. So I used the exact same approach basically also in the regular APIs. Like even in this CWK project, CWK social project. Let me go back to here. I have also added that. Where is it? The API. You see the extensions, and then is this register extensions, and it's the first one. So it's I'm doing exactly the same thing, because I think it's very easy to keep a program.cs file clean, and also making sure that as long as you add your services to a register, then that everything will be fine. So I really use that approach also in non-minimal API. Cool. So okay, we have proved so far that this one is actually running. So the minimal API now at least works. So the next steps that we would have to do is to actually have a look into what we have in our API so far and try to kind of like port everything to our minimal API. So first of all, we have used this class that we have called API routes, and it's a static class, and here we actually define all our routes so that we don't really have to kind of like hard code everything either on the controller or in this case in our route handlers. So we'll probably reuse this, and let's create this class also here. And I want these two projects to be totally decoupled, so that's why I do this. Theoretically, I could, well, take out those things that I would reuse kind of like in a cwksocial.api.common project, but I don't want to do this because if everything turns out to be okay, then I just want to, well, not use the API anymore or the controller based API and just use the minimal API. So what we want to do here, and by the way, I'm back in Rider, even if, well, still it's not full support for .NET 7 SDK, but I think, or once again, I just want to prove to myself if it's workable or not. So we call this API routes. Public static class API routes, and then these are all the routes that we have implemented for now in the API. So we are okay. Bogdan B. So I don't know exactly, and I'm curious. Do we actually know each other in real life, or not? I don't remember. I know that you have also watched some of the past live streams, but I don't really recall exactly. So yeah, just let me know. And all the others, please, if you can take just a few seconds to just say hi and where are you watching from. That would be kind of like cool to have an idea where my viewers are right now. So okay, Bogdan, so no, we don't know each other. Okay, cool. So we have this class that contains the route, so we'll probably use this with the route handlers. And watching from Cluj. Oh, nice city. Thank you for joining, Bogdan. Now the other Bogdan, I know for sure where he is watching from, probably. Oh, from Italy. Daniele Giovanetti. Where exactly from Italy? And from Leeds, UK. Nice. Nice. I'm from Târgoviște. Silviu, by the way, shout out to Silviu. Silviu actually just entered the Code Wrinkles memberships as a senator, which is the highest membership possible. And that's why when he comments, you see basically that Code Wrinkles badge that he has. That's a perk for all Code Wrinkle members. So from now on, when you are on this channel, either in the regular comments or wherever, and you see people that kind of like have this badge, that means that they are members of the channel. From Rimini. I guess you were also last week when we had the stream. Am I right? Cool. Let me just, in the meantime. So then the next thing that we had. Okay. Also shout out to Bogdan B, who has just joined as a supporter. Silvio, yes, I really appreciate your work. Thank you very much. As you know, as a senator, you have some more perks, and one of the perks is that we can have one-to-one sessions. So if you kind of, I guess you want to benefit from it, I guess the best way would be either if you go to the channel and you find my email address, you can then just write me an email, or the other thing is, or that I would prefer maybe for the long run, is that you would join our Discord community, which for now, of course, it's not big, but I think it will grow bigger. And then on the Discord server, on the Code Wrinkle Discord server, we can just keep in touch there. It's much easier. If you go to all the members, if you go to the channel homepage, you have a tab which is called membership, and if you click on the tab with membership, you will see then some kind of like content or a community post and information that I have posted for members. And in case of for you, Silvio, you can, if you go there, there is a certain post where there is some instructions on how or what you need to do from your side so that you can integrate directly as a member with the Code Wrinkles server. Is just really just a few clicks, so it's not much, because there is some automation behind that automatically syncs members. So you just have to make sure that you will get into that automation process. So it's not really difficult, and it's really easy to achieve. So I strongly recommend you to actually do that. And also, once again, back to Bogdan B, thank you very, very, very much for supporting this channel as a member. And you also have got your badge. So yeah, that's kind of cool to see. And by the way, regarding badges, those badges will actually get a new color, like for instance in 1 month. So if you're still a member in 1 month, then the badge will get a different color, and in 3 months a different color, and in 6 months a different color, and in 1 year a different color. So basically this would mean that the older you are as a member, you will stand out more, because you would have a different color to your membership badge. Cool. But yeah, I guess that was enough about memberships. Let's let's go back to what we have here. So in the API, the way that I like to organize things is, or at least the return types that we return from the API and what we need to actually get in the request bodies, or what consumers needs to provide in the request bodies. I like this to, well, call a construct, because that's an API. It's a programmable interface. Yeah. And it means that that's kind of like a contract, so it's binding. It means that once you have published your API, if you change anything in that contract, you have to create a new version for that specific endpoint at least. So that is very, very important, and that's why I don't really like to call it just simple DTO. I like to call it contracts, because I want to have it clear for everybody. That's kind of like, this is something very, very important. So we have here this contracts folder, and we have this identity. And in this identity, we have some models that we kind of like want to replicate there. Let's maybe start with this authentication result, which is actually maybe not much. Let's also try to call the class exactly the same way, and hopefully I don't do any typos, because I do them a lot, unfortunately. So new directory, let's call this contract, and in this contracts, let's add a new class. Where is it? Class for interface, and let's call this authentication result. Would be fine, I guess. Okay, so we have viewers that are watching from Leeds, from Rimini, from different locations in Romania. That's kind of nice, because actually when I look into the, well, statistics on who views my videos, I guess most views come from the US, then from India, but from Romania there are actually very few viewers. So I'm really glad to have you here directly on live stream. So that's kind of like very very nice. And I have used, by the way, this nullable reference type here. Cool. So we have this authentication result. Then we have this identity user profile. So that's actually the one that we are using actually, or when a client or consumer wants to create something. But the others, where are you watching from? So we have from Rimini, we have from Leeds, we have from Romania, I said. So where are you watching from? Just say hi and just drop a line here. Let's become a community. Cool. So this is called identity user profile. I'm not sure I like this name though. I'm not sure why I did name it like this. It's kind of like it's also a pretty long time ago since we last coded on this application, so I'm not sure exactly anymore where exactly did we use this class, but we'll probably find this out soon enough. Because if this is used as a contract in a request body, then I don't like this name, identity user profile. That's because it kind of like, it's leaky, meaning that it kind of like, well, describes or says what we are using under the hood, and that's not something good. But well, that's something that happens to me a lot. So when I write some code now, and even if I'm happy with the code that I've written, if I look in 6 months on that code, well, I probably find some things that I'm not happy anymore. So yeah, that's at least how it works for me. Cool. Then we have this login. I guess this login. And here we have used. This will be well, let's say major difference, because we cannot do model binding the way that we actually do it in controller-based APIs, or not model binding because that works, but model validation. So yeah, you see that's a very major difference. I already spotted it right now. So we call this login. I guess this is what we use for login at least. But the identity user profile, do we use it for registration? It's bad. It's a bad naming in that case. Cool. So we should call this login, and in this class login we have kind of like this stuff, and here we say that it should be an email address and it should be required, and the password, well, we just have set a requirement that or a validation that it should be required, but we cannot use or do validation in the minimal API the same way that we do here, or that we did in the controller based API. So yeah, we'll have to look into it. It's a good indicator that you are still learning. Oh, I'm always learning. I guess everybody's still learning. It's kind of like, well, you never stop to learn as a programmer. Or if you stop to learn, you kind of like start to become non-competitive on the market and maybe even irrelevant. Let's make them also nullable reference time so that we don't get kind of like this information. No, user registration, I guess that's what we use. That looks better. So still we'll have to figure out why we use the identity user profile, because that's the one that we use when a user wants to register. So that's the body that's used. So kind of like that, that's okay. Identity user profile is what we return, I guess, when somebody logs in. But we'll see. Cool. So we have this user registration contract. Okay, but these contracts, we should have created a subfolder, but yeah, let me just create also this other class and we'll move then the classes around. So how did we call that? Already forgot. So with a certain age, you forget from 1 second to the other. User registration. User registration. Here, I guess the last week when we had a stream, there were more viewers. Probably that has something to do with the fact that Nick Chapsas is also streaming today. So that was maybe not a good choice from my side. But yeah, probably I'll move the stream for another day, not on Tuesdays. Kind of like not wise to stream at the same time. Even though, to be honest, I think that at least when it comes to the live streaming part, I think my stream is, well, more educative because, well, he's just entertaining things and reading CVs and answering questions. But I also want to do some real stuff. Coding. Cool. So yeah, let me just use this. So the first thing is that we'll probably have to work a lot on the validation process. So date time. He doesn't really code in like, yes, I know, yes. That's, I think that at least when it comes to live streaming, at least for now, I think what I do is a little bit more educative, or I don't know, maybe I don't really pronounce it right in English. Sorry for that. You have probably noticed English is not my native language. Cool, so here we just have to create another subfolder where is directory and call this, how should we call this, identity. And what we'll do is we'll take all of these classes and move them here. You are about to move 4 files. Yes, I'm about to move them and I'm okay with that. And here is contracts dot identity, which should be fine. And here also let's change the namespace, reflect the folder structure in this case. Okay, cool. Login. Okay, let's go to this one. But this one we already changed. This one we didn't. So let's change it. But of course it's not here. Well, I see just more people just joined. Hello everybody and thanks for joining. Also, I repeat what I said also to all the others. It would be nice if you could just drop a line in the chat and just say hi and let me know where you are watching from. That would be highly appreciated. Cool. Is there a class that we missed to change it? Yes, this one. Identity. Okay. So now we have all these contracts, and for now I guess I'll stop with these contracts because we'll try to implement these endpoints first. So that's actually my first idea here. Now what should we do? What should we do the next thing? So now if we look into the API, let's just start looking into controllers, and let's start with the identity controller. Here we have a base controller where we have actually done some nice things to keep our controllers clean, like injecting the mediator in the base controller and just exposing it as a protected property. And we have this handle error response method that actually helps us to handle errors. Problem is we don't have a controller base here, but maybe, just maybe, we can use this handle error response in the... By the way, when it comes to error response, that's something that we also need to take into consideration, because we return... What do we return actually? Not found API error. Okay, error first or default, error not found. But where it's a new error response, so I guess this is something that we'll also need. I guess it also should be in the contracts. It's not in the contract, so where is it? Ah, common. Okay. So yeah, let's also add, because we want to use the same structure right now for the error response. And yeah, let's go back here. We need a subfolder. Where is directory? Directory here. And in this common, we add a new class, which is then error response, and we just, yeah, move all the stuff here. Okay, let's see, what does rider tell us about this? I guess just use... what do you want me to do? Maybe just use the new? Yeah, that's the new way of doing things. Okay, like that. Status phrase. Okay, nullable. Let's make it like this. Cool. So we have also moved this error response now. We are just one step further, and then so let's say we have this base controller, but let's go just try to the identity controller, and let's check out and see how we can move actually, or how can we do things here. Okay, so we kind of like need to create an endpoint definition, and I don't remember by heart exactly how I have done it there in the video. And I guess if I take it from there, it will be much faster than start writing in from scratch, because we have also an extension method for that. Like how do we handle endpoints? So let me go on the other screen for just a second. Minimal API, of course. Where is it? Yes, it. Okay, let me just move it. So when I'm streaming, everything is moving, well, not as fast as usually. So yeah, probably because there a lot of resources from the computer are used by the stream itself. So let me just click here. Yeah, no, I don't want to give feedback right now. So let me check, where do we have this? So I guess maybe I'll just bring it to the other screen. I opened the solution in Visual Studio because in Visual Studio I have created a solution for that video, so that's why I have opened it here. But when we look here, we have into this minimal API extensions, and yeah, we have this register endpoint definitions, and for that one we have created this abstraction, which is endpoint definition, which I will actually take from there here. And yeah, let's create this also in our minimal API. And new directory. Where is it? Where is it? I always don't see the new directory. Where is it? Ah, here. Directory. Let's call it directions. Okay, I already have it. Yeah, already have it. Ah, because I have this for register. Okay. So let me add another interface. I endpoint. Guys, can you let me know if the stream is still okay, if you can hear me correctly, if you can see the image correctly? But it would be an interface. Okay, so it's something like that. And then let me go back to this other one. I guess it has to do something also with the fact that probably also right now also Visual Studio is open. So yeah, let's just copy this method because that's everything that we still need. And if you go to the extensions, where do we have it? Here, register. We had this extension for register services. And here we had this private animal iRegister of iRegister, so get register. Yeah, we'll see into the refactoring afterwards. So I'm looking here for endpoint definitions. We look into the assembly that contains the program. Then we get all the types and we check the types that are assignable to endpoint definition. And we want to make sure that those types are not an interface or an abstract class because we cannot instantiate them. And if they are not, then we just want to create an instance and yeah, we cast it to an endpoint definition. And for each endpoint definition, we then just go and register the endpoints that we create. So yeah, that's basically what we need to do. So let me just close this. Hopefully it all good with the stream for me. Okay, thank you, Rob. Because the YouTube says that well, is not receiving enough video to maintain. I don't know what it actually means. Internet connection seems to work just fine. So yeah, hopefully that error just goes away. Let me refresh the things here. And we'll see. So while it refreshes, but I still see actually this error, so status poor. Well, it's actually not giving any hint what exactly is wrong. So yeah, hopefully then I just continue and yeah, and I hope that that everything's okay. When things are not okay, then just please let me know. So that would be important. Cool. So yeah, let me then we have this method here. So then we can actually go and create a new folder in this minimal API. And yeah, where is it? Always. It seems that every time it is at a different place. Endpoint definitions. And here for that should be a class identity. Let's call it just an identity endpoints. And this identity endpoints, it should inherit endpoint definition. So it should be something like that. Of course, we need what was this? Implement missing members. So it's actually the exact method that we need. So that is kind of like cool. Now, the only thing that we need to do to wire everything up is, how did we call register endpoint definitions? Okay, so that's the name of the method. So we need to go back to our program, and then we don't want the weather forecast anymore. We don't care for it. App dot how was it called? Register endpoint definitions. And that should make sure that all the endpoints will be registered. Cool. So let me then just go one step further with this one. And for the endpoint definition, here I guess we need to compare just a little bit. And let's start with the sign up with the register. So that's kind of like the register. Well, and I guess for now I'll copy this. Because probably that code can be reused in kind of like similar to this form, but we'll see exactly how that is different. So what we'll do here is we'll go to where is it? I guess here. identity endpoints. Cool. So we have this identity endpoints. So, but I didn't recall exactly how that one was configured. Let me go back, identity. So from the route, it's API routes identity registration. Okay. Cool. So yeah, let me do this. And actually, let me do this another way. Let me create route groups. Because on route groups, we can then attach filters. That's kind of like nice. Equals.app. But I guess we will not create route groups because that would mean kind of like refactoring this API routes class. The profile post identity, because here we have a base for this one. We still have to refactor this a little bit because here we haven't implemented things with Swagger. So like in this case, we will not have a base route for each. For the base route will actually only be the API and the version. So yeah, we still have to refactor it. And yeah, I still want to have version 1, but in this case, I'll just refactor that. Okay. And another thing is that all the other routes that we will need, for instance, here in the in the minimal API, we have to provide them like this. So it would be identity slash login. So theoretically, in this case, it would be the base route, which is this one, plus this one. But actually, the base route we have created in the controller on the base controller. So, yeah. So first thing, when we move to minimal API, if you already have an existing API, and if you have kind of like all the routes basically or already in just one class, like we have it here, like I usually do in applications, this needs to be refactored. Because in this case, we kind of like we will not have a base route anymore. Although we still can do that. Also, let me say here. So identity slash login. Here it would be then identity slash registration. And here it would be once again identity slash identity user ID, and we have also implemented an endpoint for the current user. Identity current user. Okay. Now the idea is that when we define a group, for the group we will have the base route, and then no, because in that one, don't know how to do that. I get some of the viewers got bored. Sorry for that. Because the idea is that in this case, I want a way to actually have this identity in everything. So I guess we'll do this differently. We'll do this just a little bit differently. So for each such nested class, we'll have a public const string, and let's call this identity base equals, and that one would be slash slash API slash v1 slash identity. That's kind of like it. And then it means that we can just remove all this stuff here. We can remove this one. We can remove this one. Let me see if there are any questions. No, there aren't any questions. For those of you who have joined recently, if you can just spare 2 seconds to just write in the chat, just say hello and where are you watching from, that would be awesome. Cool. So I have this identity current user. It means like that, and then we can use this for the group, and then we can use all this other stuff for here. Okay, but here we have this identity endpoint. Of course, that's kind of like identity group app.map group. And this group would be, of course, if I also type it correctly, so API routes.identity base. Cool. So that would be the group. And then what we can do here is on the identity group itself, route group builder, we can identity group dot map post, because that's what we want to do. And in this map post, we want the URL. The URI should be API routes identity.registration, and I guess that should be okay. And then we can just have this kind of like what we want to do here. Cool. Hi, Poland here. Thank you very much for joining. Where are you watching from in Poland? Cool, but this one I will just want to replace with private methods. Private. Now in minimal API, everything will be async. Async task off. So in minimal API, we return an I result, not an I action result. And here, let's call this user registration. And dependency injection works a little bit different here because we cannot do constructor injection in minimal API. So we have to, but we can actually do method injection. So we can inject everything from the dependency injection container directly here in our user registration. So they're directly in the method. So what we'll have here is an IMapper, but not. Okay, we'll also need an IMapper, I guess. So yeah. The thing is that, and you see here, this is a challenge for me right now. So when compared to the controller-based API, because the fact that I cannot actually use constructor injection doesn't help me a lot, because I cannot just simply create a base class for this identity and for an I endpoint definition and just inject the mapper there and the mediator there and just reuse it, because I cannot use constructor injection. So I have to inject all the things that I need in methods. So that's a little bit cumbersome, I guess. It's surely not optimal, but so let's do this. Let's start with I mediator, and for the mediator, yeah, let's say mediator. But what is the problem? Probably I need to import missing referencing file. Okay, so that should be it. One other thing that I would need is an IMapper probably. And yeah, I guess I'll also need, let me go to the controller to check this again. I'll also need here, yeah, the cancellation token. We can also pass in the cancellation token. I guess we can at least. But then we have this user registration. So yeah, that's coming from the body. So we will need a way to actually be able to validate that. Now, validation we do here in this controller-based API in an action filter, and probably we'll do something similar also in the minimal API, because there are kind of like a basic filters right now there in minimal API. The filters weren't there at all in the .NET 6 minimal API, but yeah, we have them now, at least kind of like a little bit, or just a little bit when compared to the controller based stuff. So yeah, in this case it means that we will also need to take a user registration. Let's call this user, and yeah, for the mapper we need also to, of course, give it a name. Maybe go here on a different line. Let me check back to the controller, see, did we have anything else? The cancellation token. Yeah, let's just see if it works. I didn't try, but I assume that a cancellation token will also be created for each request. And let's call it token. Okay, cool. We should be okay with this, at least for now. Let's make it here. Okay, so that's what we had in the controller. Like, what we need here is okay, we need, Register identity. Okay. The problem is here. Yeah, let's rename this to registration. The problem is here we are missing automapper profiles. We'll need to also recreate those automapper profiles. So that's kind of like okay, but then the mediator is like this, await mediator.send, and we call this just no token. So we should be good to go with this one. Then if result is error, then return handle error response. Now that is the second challenge, because this method was on the base controller, so I could actually directly have that. But let me just check this. Let me just check this. Where is the controller base? Controller base, controller base. Return base controller. Cool. So what we do here is error response. If we have errors, we look at the errors, and yeah, then we kind of like create an API error if we want to. And then we say for each, we add the errors to the list of errors that we have in our response, and then we just return the status code 400. So I guess we could actually create a base for the endpoint definition. So let me go back here, and in abstractions, where is the abstractions folder? Entity, where do I have it here? Let me add a new class here. Endpoint definition, and this class will be abstract, and it will inherit endpoint definition. Now, am I obliged to actually implement this? Yeah, but something like that. We'll make this abstract, and then what we want to do is not in the identity endpoints, but in user registration. Where this is, yeah, we don't inherit this, but we inherit this. Public override okay. So now we have implemented this one. I'm curious if things will still work. And then it's the handle error response. Then we have this result.errors. This errors is actually a list of error. Okay. And the error is in the application models. Okay, so let me go back to the abstract class endpoint definition. And what we'll actually do here is protected. In this case, we will have to return an I result. Yeah, I guess just an I result. Handle error response. Let me go back to the controller and check how it was there. So base controller, so list of error, that's what we actually need to get there. So yeah, let me go back to the endpoint definition. So it would be a list of error. This should be in the application models error. Okay, that's cool. We have these errors, and then just API error, new error response. What's this error response? That's common error response. Yeah, that's what we need to import. So I guess the logic will be exactly the same. We just populate this with a lot of things, and then we don't return not found, but we return results dot I guess bad request. Yes, something like that would work. Let me check. Are you going to prepare a video about mqin.net, or what plans do you have for videos in the future? I guess you are talking about RabbitMQ for messaging. Cool, but I'm really glad that you asked this question for what plans do I have for the future, because actually I also wanted to discuss this with you and kind of like, well, see what you would actually want, because my original plan is I already have 2 videos that are scheduled already, one still on .NET 7 minimal API and some new stuff, or going deeper into some new stuff of the minimal API, and one other that kind of like, well, it's more on software architecture, and this is a common question that I have received a lot also from interns, and I have seen also on Twitter a lot of discussions, and people kind of like well, not understand exactly what's the end layer architecture, what's clean architecture, what's the difference between them, and what's the difference from a practical point of view when you kind of like set up a project. And the video goes through both of these models, explain them also graphically with how one architecture works, how the other works, but also then going into practice and just have 2 projects side by side, or 2 solutions side by side. One is set up with a regular end layer application, and one is set up with clean architecture. And then kind of like we look over it and compare and see exactly how these 2 architectural types or patterns kind of like fit in, or well, come together, or what's the difference between them from a practical perspective when you start a new project. So that's the second video. And then I was thinking for the month of December, I wanted to kind of like start a little bit to, well, look into domain-driven design, because to be honest, I really found a lot of content online on domain-driven design, and well, also videos, and to be honest, I don't always agree with what people think, or when people think they are doing domain-driven design, when at least by my book they really don't. And when I say this, is not because I'm smarter, but what I have done recently, I've actually wrote a paper for a local university on domain-driven design, and kind of like I really studied Eric Evans' book and also other books from, well, page to page, but really studied, not just read, and also try to put everything into practice. And I think from my point of view that when it comes to, okay, we are doing domain-driven design, it means that you have, or at least from my point of view, and we'll discuss that in the videos, you have to adhere to at least, well, a few very, very core concepts that are, from my point of view, described in Eric Evans' book. If you're not doing this, and this is what I want to say, because that book, Eric Evans' book, at least for me, it kind of like changed a lot the way that I perceive software architecture and software basically is how we design systems. It kind of like changed my mind, or changed my entire view on how should I think about applications. And I have applied a lot of things that I have read in that book and that I have found in discussions afterwards. I have applied it in regular projects, because there are a lot of things that you can take from the domain-driven design theory and apply in real projects that are not really domain-driven design. There are some things that you can really apply anywhere, and that's good. It's good to do that, but you can't say that you are doing domain-driven design. Like you are implementing, or you kind of like have influences, or you borrow techniques and patterns from domain-driven design, but this does not equal to doing real domain-driven design. And that's why I wanted to create a series on domain-driven design principles, so that we kind of like understand, okay, what domain-driven design really means. Like when you say I'm doing domain-driven design, it means that you are doing everything according to the domain-driven design principles, and that's okay. But then also to understand, okay, I'm borrowing things from domain-driven design, even if I can't say that I 100% do domain-driven design on a certain project. So that's why I was thinking in December to kind of like well, have a focus when it comes to videos on concepts from domain-driven design. Of course, as always, also with practical examples from code. And yeah, that's what was my focus for December. But then I have another thing that I'm working on. Let's maybe just sorry, but here we still have to return results bed request, because I just was a results.bed request. I'll come back. So, and then we don't have to return also the 400. That will be added automatically, so it would be like this. Well, now the idea is that what I want you to do further, I have something else that I'm currently working on, that and that I'm also planning to kind of do probably several videos on, or starting from that, which is also kind of like with or has to do with software architecture, and this is the concept of modular monolith. Because from my point of view, everybody is saying about, yeah, microservices, but from my point of view, you should never start with microservices. You should ever start with a monolith, and then if the application evolves and it's necessary, then yeah, you can go over to microservices. And if you go from the first go with this idea of modular monolith, there are a lot of advantages. So on the one side, you have only one unit of deployment, so the costs with infrastructure will not be that high. So everything it will be much easier and much more straightforward when you have a smaller team. So you have a monolith, but kind of like you define or you create that monolith in or based on different modules that are self-contained, that don't communicate with other modules, except maybe through something like a service bus. So if they need to communicate, they should communicate through a service bus, but there is no direct dependency between those modules. That's kind of like very, very interesting, because from my point of view, this approach helps you a lot to kind of like, even on the smallest projects, to, well, it reduces the number of bugs a lot. It reduces the number of code conflicts a lot. It really makes life much, much easier. And the best thing about it, from my point of view, is that when you want, or if your application arrives at the stage where you say, hey, we think, or not you, but maybe the entire team, I think we need microservices here, then it's very easy to go to microservices from the modular monolith, because you take each module and each module becomes a microservice, and it's very easy to kind of like make this transition. And there is one other thing that we have applied, or we started to apply, this idea of modularizing an existing monolith for an existing older application that kind of like did become kind of like something like a Christmas tree or a shopping mall, like you have everything in there. And yeah, of course, that application is right now at a certain stage where it's fairly big and it's very, very hard to maintain. And we have started to actually look into, okay, how can we take functionalities from that application and extract them in self-contained modules? Because that kind of like allows you to do this actually while the application is still working. So it kind of like doesn't break anything. You can just do that. And after everything is tested in the front end, which is an Angular front end in that case, you just, well, switch the URLs that kind of like are calling the certain API, because we would expose the new endpoints from modules through a v2 endpoint, so like version 2. And having this idea of modules is also a very good way to actually start making or refactoring existing applications. So yeah, that was another topic that I wanted to focus a lot, like the modular monolith. So Bogdan just recently read a blog post about it. Yeah, there are some blog posts, but I think that at least when it comes to .NET, most of the posts that I've read or the videos that I've watched, they kind of like, well, they do it conceptually right, but I think ASP.NET Core has very powerful tools to actually help us achieve this. And most of the articles don't actually show that, which is the most practical part. And that's where I think that the values of my videos will actually fit in. Cool, excellent. Would be very kind to act the sub. Excellent. I don't understand. Excellent. Would be very kind act the subtitles. I guess you can well, can activate the subtitles by your own, as far as I know. So if not, I will be looking into this for the next stream. Cool. And then there is another thing that I wanted to focus on, but that would be probably in kind of like a certain order, was the idea of microservices and start creating content around microservices, which is another, well, aspect that from my point of view is really badly understood. Like everybody in technical interviews, no, subtitles are not working. Yeah, sorry for that. Let me check if I can activate them somewhere. Redirect. Okay. To be honest, I don't see right now where exactly I could activate the subtitles, but I promise you that I will tags, languages and captions. English, United States. It's English, United States. So I have theoretically the subtitle for English should be activated. At least that's what I see here in these settings. But title and description language, so stream language, yeah, it's it's kind of like strange. Okay, I promise I will look into this for the next stream and I will see how I can activate the subtitles. I really promise to do that. Well, so coming back to this idea, yeah. As said, the other thing that I wanted to concentrate on was the microservices. So that's kind of like the order I had. Finish off with what I wanted to have on .NET 7, then going into this idea of DDD, then modular monolith, and then microservices. But if you have any preference, like switching things, yeah, just say here. Or let me just try something here, because I can start a poll. What would you want me to focus on in next 2 months? Okay, and then I have here, let's have here DDD. The other option would be then modular monolith, and then the other option would be microservices. Okay, so I have just published a poll. You can vote very in a very democratic way. Please just vote. Okay, so I see at least one vote for now. It's for microservices. Okay, I'll just keep this poll open for just I don't know, some minutes. Okay, I see we have already 2 votes. We have 11 viewers, so I count on all the viewers to actually vote. You can express your opinion, and I promise I'll also listen to that. Cool. So okay, so I see also some other votes. 6 votes. Guys, I have to tell you, it's quite tight right now. Like it's a draw. It's a total draw right now. So yeah, we have only 6 votes. If anybody else would like to vote in the poll, that would be great, because right now really the situation is tight. Like 33%, 33%, 33%. So I'll just let the poll here for a few more minutes, and in the meantime, so we have implemented this handle error method. Cool. So as you did already till now, also please, if you have any questions, ask me anything, like it says also in the title of the stream. So yeah, I'll gladly also chat with you. That's the whole idea of the streams, to actually get connected. Cool. So now we have implemented this handle error response, which returns an iResult. And then it means that in this identity endpoints, what we can do here is to handle error response. So yeah, we have implemented it and it already works. And now what we can do here is, of course, the mapper first of all is like that. And then we need here another way to actually return things here is typed results. And typed results, it's actually well, the better way to actually return things in the minimal API, because these methods that return a type result are easier to test, like when you want to test your endpoints. So kind of like that would do it. Like the method right now is okay. Now the only problem with this method, of course, is that we let me just delete here everything, and yeah, what we want to call here is user registration identity. Let's call this differently, because otherwise there is this ambiguity. Oh my god, some words are really hard to pronounce. So it would be, I would like to have here this register user. Okay, and then this n here, I don't need it anymore. So yeah, that's actually my very first route. I have already added that route, so it should be actually go. What do you recommend to learn for unit testing? Like, do you mean if I recommend N unit or X unit, or I don't know, something like this, or what exactly do you mean by that? Okay, cool. So we have in the meantime this identity with map post. And what I want to do here is, first of all, now that is the problem with this. Let me go to this register user contract. Where is it? User registration. It should have username, password, first name, last name. You know what? I'll take it like that. And yeah, let me just go to Postman. Let's add a new request here. Why don't I have a new request here? Add request. Post user registration. Then it would be like from the weather forecasts. We can take this, and the weather forecast endpoint we can just remove afterwards. And instead of weather forecasts, like we will have /API /v1/identity/ I guess register. It's like that. But in that case, that should be a post request, and that should also have a body, which is row, and then JSON. Cool. So you kind of like have this JSON stuff. Oh, not like that, not like that, not like that. Cool. Do you prefer MS Test? Honestly, I never work with MS Test. I just work with XUnit and NUnit, and they seem quite like similar. Like I wouldn't be able to just really recommend one. And if I worked with both, and kind of like they were okay. They were doing the job. And for unfortunately with MS Test, I never worked. So yeah, cool. We have here now 9 votes for the poll with on what should I concentrate about. Now, do you want me to make the poll results visible to you? Do you want that right now, or should we just wait a little bit more? Let me go back to Rider and copy this in the meantime. And yeah, we'll have some reformatting to do. But the good thing about Postman is then I can save that. I never have to care about this anymore. So we'll have here like this. And then I'll probably also username. Then we'll have to provide a value for that. Okay, show it to us. Cool. Let me show it to you. Okay, so let me know if you can see the results. Yeah, so let me know if you can see them. I guess it's 40% for microservices. I guess microservices it will be, I guess. Jonathan Moran. Cool. Jonathan, where are you watching from? Thank you very much for joining, first of all. Okay, so for the username. Now the problem is that I already have a database here that I never touched in the last 7 months, so I'm not sure exactly what I have in the database already. So yeah, let me just come up with a username. Username needed to have email address. We'll see. Okay, hello at codewinkles.com. Cool. Then we have here the password. Obviously, this content would be encrypted because it's the body and we use HTTPS. Not that it's okay to just send the passwords like that, but hey, we need to send passwords when you log in or register. Or we can, yeah, for the password, you can, then if after registration, we can kind of like have a dedicated window to actually do that. But Ohio, US. Oh, thank you very much for joining. As said at a certain point previously in the live stream, most of my viewers actually are from the United States. So I was kind of like a little bit curious why at the live stream itself, they didn't seem to have any user from the US. But thank you very much for joining, Jonathan. Okay, so password, the strongest password ever, and I don't recall exactly the settings for identities for Microsoft SP2 Core Identity. So yeah, let's make just sure that we have all the type of things there. We have to actually do this here and also change this. So the first name would be yeah, let's just use my name. Of course, I need a comma here. Okay, and I guess I miss the colon. Okay, cool. So we are okay with that. Last name. Okay, what do we need here? Quotation marks, colon, and then let's yeah, let's use my name. Not that it's a secret, because you can find it on LinkedIn, on Twitter, wherever you are, you can find me. So it's not a secret. Cool. Now the date of birth. That would be fun. That would be fun. I hate working with dates, by the way. I hate working with dates, but we need to provide a date. That's it. And there is even a rule, I guess, in the domain. We have a validator for that date of birth, I think, that I'm not, I don't know, maybe minus 2 years old. We have a rule for that already. Date of birth, but it's missing the comma here. Cool. Now, date of birth. Let's see. Let's say year. Let's say month, and let's say day. Cool. Then we have phone. I guess we don't have any validation for phone, but I don't recall. Really, I don't recall. So just to not have errors, let's just give it also a phone number here. That could be, I guess, something pretty dummy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or how was it number? 86 876509 or something like that. 509. There was a song in the US in the 80s with kind of like this number. Seems to be very popular with programmers. Current city. Jonathan, do you know the song that I was referring to, that with Jenny and the phone number 867509 or something like that? It was a very popular song in the 80s. Okay, and the current city. Let me just use the city. right now. So it's this one. Okay, so we have this. Have set up the request. Cool. Now it's a really important moment, guys, for this stream, because we have worked a lot for this endpoint, and I would expect that every time that you kind of like work on something and it's the first time you run it, it should fail. So come on, it cannot be a success from the first go. But what I want to do is I want to place a breakpoint here just to see if we actually hit this. So just to see if we hit this and if it breaks or not. That would be also something. 8675. I don't think 53. 8675309. Yes, 86. Okay, so you know the song. Okay, 8675309. Yeah, cool. That was the song. Okay, so let's do this. Sending request. Now everything crashes and burns. Okay, not really. Well, it could be worse. It could be worse than that. So okay, probably we haven't actually specified the route correctly. So let me go back to the API routes and let me check. So we have /API/v1/identity. Let me check. /API/v1/identity, and then we have register. That seems to be okay, actually. Or if I missed it, so if I missed something, so please let me know. In the meantime, what we can also do is take a look into the program.cs class. We have actually run this register definitions, and then let me go to this register. Where is it? It's here. And we are in this register endpoint definitions. Let me put a breakpoint here. And let me once again take a look in the route. So it should be /API/v1/identity, and then registration. /API/v1/identity registration. Okay, so that's the problem. Registration. Hopefully it's okay. Now, but I have to start the debugger again. Yeah, let's just also leave that breakpoint there to see if the endpoint and if the endpoints are registered actually. So it builds. API route says registration as the endpoint, but you call registering the postman. Thank you very much. Yeah, indeed. Nice catch. That was indeed a problem. Cool. So we hit this endpoint here. Let me see endpoint definitions, and for each endpoint definition, yeah, it did register one. So that's cool. That's cool. So we are good here. We are good with that. Do you also random advice question? I'm familiar with Azure, but understand generally how cloud systems work. Not sure how familiar you are with Microsoft's certs, but was curious if you think it's feasible to. I guess, Jonathan, your comment or would continue after, because I guess you are restricted to 200 characters. So I guess okay, the second part. Okay, so for Jonathan, if you think that's feasible to obtain the Azure Developer Certification without obtaining the fundamental cert, I think it's feasible, but I'm not sure if it would be that useful. I will come back to this idea of certifications just in a second, because I have an opinion on that might be a little bit unpopular. And I want to share it with you. So do you also need to add the identity base to the registration string? I did. And I show you where. Identity, not here. Identity. Here, when I created the group. That's no, it's nothing off topic. As said, we can discuss anything during the streams. That's the whole point. So you don't have to be sorry for it. I'm really glad that you actually have asked that question. So, and I promise I'll come to it just in a few seconds. But I want to. Is the application running? No, it is running. Oh, let me check. Send. Okay, yeah. Bad HTTP request exception. Failed to read parameter user registration from the request body. Okay. Okay, the JSON value could not be converted to a system date time. I told you I hate working with dates. I really hate that. What would be the correct format for the date time in JSON so that .NET would know to convert that into a real date time? Seemingly, what I have here is not okay. So, let's try day, month, year. Or maybe like this. Okay, then month, then day. I don't know, maybe it works like that. Let me just debug again. But the fact that we got the error is actually it's actually very nice. It means that we did everything right until that point. And it also means that model binding worked. So the minimal API tried to actually bind that model from the request to my user registration object. So that kind of like is already a very, very good sign. So let me just try again. And okay, nothing happens. We hit the endpoint. We did hit the endpoint, so that's cool. Cool. Now let me see. Mapper. It will fail. It will fail. I don't know. 100 bonus points for anybody that would tell me why this will fail. And I just close it so that we cannot look into the exception. Cool. So 100 bonus points for whoever tells me why the request fails. And also how we can fix this. In the meantime, coming back to Jonathan's question. So the question was, okay, I'm familiar with Azure, but understand generally how cloud systems work. Not sure how familiar you are with the Microsoft certs, but curious if you think it's feasible to obtain the Azure developer certification without obtaining the fundamental certification. And my answer to this is yes. Because kind of like if you are already familiar with kind of like cloud principles and how cloud systems work, that should be enough to actually get you started if you want to study for the developer certification. Rob, no mapping profiles for AutoMapper. Exactly, that's the problem. We haven't ported the AutoMapper profile, so that's what we will have to do. So that's exactly what the problem is. Now coming back to the certifications. Now obtaining, from my point of view, the certification in whatever Azure thing is, from my point of view at least, not really important, or it doesn't really prove how good or how proficient you are with understanding and using Microsoft Azure services. And I can tell you why I think it this way, and it's kind of like going back to the times when I was working for Microsoft. Now, when I was working for Microsoft, what I was doing mostly there was I was kind of like a consultant for ISVs, like for companies that were developing applications using Microsoft Azure solutions also. So I was a consultant for Microsoft Azure, and I worked kind of like on very, very big projects, like with the British Parliament, with Coca-Cola, with the HSBC, with BMW. I have worked on really big cloud projects and have advised customers on how to kind of like benefit from different cloud services, how to set up their cloud infrastructure, did some system or, well, system architecture, proof of concepts even. So I worked a lot with Azure services, really a lot. And kind of like it seems that I was pretty good at it, because all the customer that I have or that I have been involved with were very very happy in the end. And basically, just a fun fact, one customer that I kind of like worked when they were very, very small, but now they are a fairly big company, was UiPath, for instance. Because they are from Romania and they were very small by that time. And we did a lot of kind of like consulting from Microsoft side with UiPath to actually help them get out the best of the Microsoft Azure services. And now they are kind of like a global company. Now, the idea is that I said I worked a lot with Azure Cloud Services. And then it was a decision in Microsoft that, hey, everybody needs to take a certification in Microsoft Azure. Like also the technical stuff or well, technical roles, but also non-technical roles, because there are some certifications that kind of are like more, I don't know, sales oriented or things similar to that. So I said, okay, I'll do the Azure Fundamental certification. So what I did is, okay, I say, well, I think I'll go directly and well, do the exam, and that's it. And I was thinking previously, okay, let's do a text exam first. Now I did this test exam and I failed. I failed it because there were so many questions in that exam that were kind of like related to, you had to know the exact pricing tiers and billings and kind of like make suggestions based on this. There were a lot of topics or questions that were already outdated. A major problem with certifications in Azure is that most probably by the time you take a certification, some questions there will be outdated, corresponding to what or how Microsoft Azure actually evolved. So I have failed that test exam. So the idea is that what I did in that case, well, maybe I shouldn't say this on stream, but maybe nobody hears. Well, I use some brain dumps. Like, okay, I won't spend a lot of time to kind of like learn all this stuff, because it's stuff that you can Google in 5 minutes. So it doesn't even prove that you really understand and that you're really proficient with the technology. So in that case, I just used brain dumps. I kind of like learned everything like from memory. I went and took the certification and it was okay. But the idea is that from my point of view, the certifications from Microsoft in general certification, they don't really prove that you are really proficient with that specific technology. However, I am aware that a lot of employers, and a lot of times if you have a certification on your CV, that's a good thing. Because there are a lot of companies or hiring managers that actually look at that. So then my advice in this case, of course, if you are at a certain point in your career, like when you are more towards your starting stage of your career, then the certification might really help you to get a better job. But if you are already kind of like a well-established developer in this ecosystem, like I don't really think that you need to prioritize certifications, except if they are requested from you by your employer or something like that. For instance, after that certification that I did when I still was at Microsoft, I never did another certification ever. So yeah. Cool, Jonathan. I did talk a lot, but I hope that kind of like I just also answered your question a little bit. Then Bogdan B, which is a member of this channel, so a brand new member from today. So once again, shout out to you, Bogdan, for joining the CodeWrinkles memberships. Going a bit off topic, I think the logical route to go with the video would be DDD, modular monolith, which would use of DDD. Yes, that's correct. And microservices, splitting the modular monolith. From a logical perspective, you are totally right, Bogdan. I think that that makes total sense, because indeed, when you create a modular monolith, actually, you can split the modules by bounded context, which is a core concept in domain-driven design. So even if you don't have a full microservices setup, but if you have a modular monolith, you still can do 100% DDD if you want there. So that's totally correct. That's why DDD, then modular monolith, and then microservices, because then when you need microservices, then kind of like you just split your modules, like the DDD that you already have, into microservices. So yeah, from a logical perspective, I totally agree with you. And then Jonathan, very helpful info. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, in my case is that my employer is wanting me to go for an Azure cert to further out Microsoft partnership. Yeah, that's a reason. That's a reason. I totally understand that. So that's the reason why an employer could actually want to do that. And I know that for certain types of partnerships with Microsoft, there are certain certifications that are required. So yeah, in that case, probably. But I don't think that the Azure Fundamentals is required. I guess if you do this Azure for Developer certification, I guess that should be okay. Um, and now I remember that I guess 2 years ago, I was even delivering the training or the certification training for this Azure for developers, or how it's called, uh, for a training company in Romania that kind of like is authorized to deliver the trainings for this certification. And I kind of like did deliver, I guess, 2 times that training. So yeah, but probably if I'll take it right now, I'll fail. So yeah, that's kind of like how certifications work. Cool. Uh, okay. Now, indeed, what we need to do is kind of like we need to kind of like go over to the automapper profiles and port them here. But guys, I would like to take a short break, like 5 minutes break. Yeah, that's why I was asking, because fundamentals doesn't really do much for the partnership, so I was weighing on whether spending. Yeah, I think you're totally okay to do directly the Azure for developers certification, like the 201, or how, I don't remember the exact number, but yeah, you can totally do that. So coming back to this idea, I really would like to have a short break, because I just have to make a refill for what I'm drinking actually. And yeah, I just need to have a break, but I'll be back in 5 minutes and we'll continue, because my goal today is to finish the stream when we have a working endpoint. So we want to make sure that we have a working endpoint, and if that's the case, that's kind of like, yeah, everything that I couldn't be happier about. And really, I hope that you will still stay here. Maybe just also grab a drink, or I don't know, maybe just stand up a little bit, walk a few steps, and then come back, and we'll catch up and we'll have some other discussions, hopefully. So I'll be right back in 5 minutes. So guys, I'm back. Thank you for staying around during the break. I really needed that break. So yeah, sorry for that. And before we continue, just a short reminder that yeah, during this stream, like we say in the title, you can ask me questions. You can just really ask me anything. And yeah, I really enjoyed having also a chat and really connecting with you, not only through videos, but yeah, through a direct interaction. And of course, if you want a more direct interaction, then you can join the Codewrinkles memberships, and then you can have also access to our Discord server, and we can also have a chat there. But if you want to support the stream otherwise, if you think that information or the stream today was useful, you can just use this super thanks, a button that's right below the comment box, basically where you type in your comments. So yeah, that would be highly appreciated. And also, once again, please ask me questions. Just get involved in the discussion. I really enjoy that, and that's the main reason why I actually do these streams. And you can therefore really ask me anything. So let us in the meantime take a look until we have other questions or other interactions. Let me just go here and let's say, where do we have the profiles here? Mapping profiles. Cool. And we have here identity mappings. Okay, and if we create a class that we name it exactly, actually we have a typo here. So we'll fix the typo in the minimal API. How did you call this? Mapping profiles. Let's add that folder. Directory is called in rider. Mapping profiles, and we'll add a new class. That class will be identity profiles. So something like that. Identity. It was identity mappings. Okay, let's change that. Identity mappings. Okay, that should be fine right now. Don't we have AutoMapper installed? I guess we have installed that. Don't we have AutoMapper? Ooh, that's I think we don't actually. Yeah, let me just go to managing the NuGet packages and AutoMapper. But I guess in this case we'll have to make sure that we kind of like do this for all the projects that kind of like have mapping profiles, and I'm not sure, but I think only this one has. Cool. So implicitly AutoMapper. Why is it? It says that it is already installed with AutoMapper extensions dependency injection. So in the minimal API, and it should be installed actually. Let me go to the utilities register to check if we have registered it. So add mediator, add AutoMappers. Yeah, we have. But yeah, we have this AutoMapper also in the get all user profiles, which is in the application layer. So we'll probably have to update the package also there. But I still don't 100% understand why it create method, change local create map. No. Okay, but I already have installed the package. We see that's already another problem that we have. So let's maybe start by going to this other project, like the application layer, and here dependencies, manage NuGet packages. And here we have AutoMapper. This is already the latest version, so I guess we should be okay with that. Theoretically, when we install AutoMapper with dependency injection, like we did here, theoretically also the AutoMapper library is installed theoretically, and that actually worked. So I'm not exactly sure what happens. Installed packages. So we have this one. then implicitly installed packages, which is this one. But theoretically, it is there. You are not inheriting from. Oh my god! Thank you, Rob. Yes, 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 yes. I totally forgot this. I totally forgot that. Well, seems I'm tired. So, do you prefer Rider over VS? Yes, I definitely prefer Rider over VS, and there are a few reasons for that. Did you use also Mapster? No, unfortunately, but that's something on my to-do list. I want to check Mapster out. I definitely want to check Mapster out. Okay, so we have created these maps right now, so everything should be fine with this. I don't think anyone prefers VS over Rider. I don't know, maybe there are people. I was also a very hardcore VS fan until I was seeing a lot of people using Rider. And the last one that I actually have seen using Rider that kind of like a little bit got my attention was an intern that I had, I guess, in February or something like that. And he was using Rider. And I said, okay, if even an intern is using Rider, I definitely have to check that out. I'm a newer dev, also wasn't sure why so. First of all, and if you have watched my previous stream, actually, Rider is way faster than Visual Studio. So that's the really first thing. The second thing that I like it more, or why I like it more, is that actually it actually provides, from my point of view, better feedback and better IntelliSense. And it has some also very nice tooling that kind of like comes by default with Rider. For instance, like this architecture or project diagram. It's something that you would get in VS only if you kind of like would actually go for the enterprise version, which does cost a lot. And there's also one other very nice thing. It has also, for instance, let me, I don't know, check. Place the cursor here. It has the intermediate language viewer. It kind of like also allows you to take a peek behind. Okay, what is compiled, or to what actually this is compiled. Build your project to do this. Okay, let me build. Where's the build? Build selected projects. Okay. So hi Code Wrinkles, how do you think about developing .NET 6 Plus application on macOS? I really can't say anything about that because I never worked on macOS and I don't really plan to do that. So I can't really have an opinion on that. But theoretically, I know people that kind of like do stuff or do work in .NET 6 Plus on Macs. Like for instance, I know. Have you ever worked with the hot chocolate library for GraphQL? And Bogdan, I'm also using macOS for over a year. You don't have any problems. Yeah, kind of like that was also the feedback that I have. So just a second. There's something that I have to unfortunately do on my phone, just very quick, and it will be done. Okay. Done. Yep. Build times and so on. Okay. Now, yeah, so definitely it works. And really there are a lot of, well, people that work on very high profile libraries that kind of like they work only with Macs. Like for instance, Michael Steib, who's the creator and main maintainer of Hot Chocolate GraphQL library, he works only on Mac. So that's the only thing he uses. Okay, so this is the other reason why I like a lot Rider, because it kind of like gives you this type of stuff. Like if I want to look exactly what happens here, and in a lot of scenarios where I don't want to pretend that I can understand fully everything that happens here in the intermediate language, but for instance, if I want to check how memory are allocated and what kind of like basic things are happening for a very basic method that I have written, then I can totally do that. And for instance, I think for one of the videos about strings earlier this year, I even well, took a look into this intermediate language during the video and kind of like tried to explain why certain things are more performant than others. So yeah, that's definitely one other reason why I prefer Rider over Visual Studio. Cool. And I see here there's this discussion ongoing on the Mac OS stuff. That's kind of like cool. So Bogdan, you're also using Rider on Mac OS. Yeah, VS for Mac is complete trash. I heard that. I heard that before, so that feedback is certainly nothing really new. Cool, but we have created the maps right now, and I would expect that if we go back, where was this identity endpoints? Let's just place the breakpoint here once again, and let's debug it once again. So then we will use Postman to perform another call. Okay, the application is running. So let me do another call. So we hit the breakpoint once again, which is okay. Then we want to map that to a command, and this time it worked. Cool. So we have this one. And now comes for the fun part. We just have to await the mediator. Sending the cancellation token seems to work just fine. So that that seems to also be there, but something happened here, I guess. Or we are still waiting for the database. I guess we are still waiting. Ooh, that took a long time. Let's see, what have we with operation result? Error 0. And we have an identity user. Yes, we have a newly registered user. So let's click on continue. Let's check our Postman. And yes, we have the user and we have the token. So right now, we theoretically, when we implement other endpoints, we can just use this token, or well, create a new token basically when we log in, and we can just use this token and that's it. So first working endpoint with minimal API for our CWK application. And by the way, this application, or the entire code for this application, like all the layers and everything, is on GitHub, so it's publicly available on GitHub. The link to the GitHub repository is in the description of this live stream, so you can just go there and go to the repository. You can fork it, you can clone it, you can play definitely around with that. So cool. So yeah, it seems we have a very first endpoint that is totally working, and that's kind of cool. Now let me also, so if you are a full stack developer, what's the discussion here? Rider VS for Mac is complete trash, and you also use WebStorm if you are a full stack developer. Okay, but VS Code, what do you think about VS Code on Mac, Bogdan? What's your take on that one? Let me just check something here. I just received once again some information. Cool. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff here. Live streaming seems to still work. Cool, so I'm back. Okay, but Western does way more out of the box. Okay, so I understand. VS Code is a good one if you install a lot of plugins. Don't you install plugins also on WebStorm? Or is virtually everything present in WebStorm? So basically, Bogdan, you are a full JetBrains fan. Okay. And by the way, also with Rider, with the subscription that I've got for only $14 or something like that, I also get, but that's kind of, I guess it works only on Windows, like .memory, where I can do more performant memory profiling. And that also, yeah, is something very, very nice to have in certain scenarios. And I also have the .cover, which helps me to kind of like better calculate test coverage and things similar to that. Cool. Okay, so now that we have these things in place, let's maybe also implement the other controller that we have in identity or the login, and then I guess we should be good to go. So this one is on HTTP post, of course. For this one, we have this login, and then actually this is what we need here, like the mapper, the mediator, and we need this login model. Okay. So let me just take this code that we have here and let's go over to the minimal API and go to the, where is it? Let me close just what we don't need. We're about to move. No, I don't want to move anything. I want to close some folders that I kind of like don't need right now. So identity endpoints. So that's kind of like the endpoint. Cool. So here I'll have a new one. Identity group dot map y okay, have a type, of course. Entity group dot map also post, and this post would be then on API routes dot identity dot login, and that would be the route to the login. Cool. And then yeah, basically then we have to provide the method that we want. And here would be one. Let me. Okay, and let me call this, I don't know, user login, something like that. Of course, we don't have this method for now, but we will have it just in a few seconds. So private. In the meantime, do you have any other questions, technical, regarding this project? But I don't know, non-technical career advice, like there were the questions about certifications, I don't know, whatever you are interested in, just ask. Ask of my result, and we'll call this user login. Okay, cool. So what we need here is, once again, the I mediator. Mediator, we need an I mapper, and we need login and a cancellation token. Yeah, let's call it token, and we can just place everything here. You all made me get a monthly subscription to Rider right now, just out of curiosity. Okay, Bogdan. Okay. You'd better get a membership on Codewrinkles than on Rider. Yeah. By the way, Bogdan, do you plan to come tomorrow in the office? Bogdan is my colleague, by the way. So he works at the same company where I work. Bogdan Aldia, not Bogdan B. Cool. So we have this, yeah, not user login, but no. Let me go back. Identity controller. Yeah, copy. But Control C should also work, I guess. Bogdan Aldia, I was just kidding. It's okay. you don't have to do this. I was just kidding. Okay, so let's go back to the identity endpoint, and yeah, let's just place everything here. Now, for everything to work correctly, it would be kind of like the mapper. It would be the mediator that we need. We call this just token in this case. So if is error, we just handle error, so it's okay. I'm actually very happy that kind of like this base class for endpoint is actually working. And then kind of like I can put there what I would put in a base controller, except of course for the DI stuff. because as said in the minimal API, we cannot do constructor injection. We have to inject things in the methods here. And as you see, basically I say here iMediator, iMapper. What the .NET minimal API does, it looks kind of like at these parameters and then hey, and checks, do I have something, for instance, in the DI container that matches this? And if so, then it kind of like injects it. For this one, it is doing exactly the same. For this one, it's looking in the DI container. It doesn't find a login service. Okay, so then it kind of like goes and say, okay, do I find something like this, for instance, in the request body? And then it kind of like tries to bind it. So that would be the login, and the cancellation token is then provided there by default. So that's kind of like how DI works here in the minimal API. And here we will return a typed results, not dot. Okay. I guess I don't need this one. So let me just delete also one from here. But I also have to delete this one. So what's the problem now? There is no problem. Cool. So now I have this user login method. I have registered this route handler for this path, and its identity for the login is just login. So it would be API v1 identity login. That would be the route. So yeah, just look. Let me also look into the login. Oh, I still have an error here somewhere. Where is the error? Result payload. I think I still need a parenthesis here. Yeah, of course. If you add the as parameter attribute, it will still look into the DI container. No, kind of like you can do that. For instance, you can say here that I want this to be from services. Services. You can also do this. I'm not sure why exactly. Okay, it works. And then for this one, you can actually also save from services. And I guess here you can even specify from body. You can specify if you want, if you have something in the query, you can specify from query. So you can also do that. You can just specify exactly where to look. In that case, it will look only in that location to specify via that attribute. So that's kind of like a very, very good question, Bogdan. Thank you very, very much for asking. Cool. So now I just wanted to also take a look at this login, which just has a username and a password. And well, now I have to kind of like recall actually what I have provided here. Like username was this one, and the password was password.1 and exclamation mark. A building succeeded with warnings. Yeah, the warnings come from the nullable reference types that kind of like we didn't care about when we developed the other part of the application. So we theoretically need to create a new endpoint here, or add a new request, and we can name this request post login. Okay, cool. So we have this request. It will be a post. And by the way, we can go to the other request, and I didn't save it. Where is it? Now I have here requests also from other stuff that I have done. API posts, no. These are requests from some videos. I want to see what is actually the request. Post weather forecast, that's not what I wanted. Get weather forecast. Post user registration, I want to save it. Yep, that's it. I want to save it. Cool. And now I guess I can take the URL from here. I can go to the login part and yeah, just create it. And here, yeah, post, but not registration, but instead we have login here, and then we have also body, and in the body we have row and JSON. Cool. So we should be good to go with this. Then we have a property which is the user name, and then I guess we can just take it from here to just be sure that we have everything exactly the same, even if I have a typo. We can just come back here. Well, and then we'll have the password. Here, I guess we also can take the value from here, which should be 1. So let me go to the login. Cool, so we are good to go with this one right now. And now I guess we can go back to Rider. We did have a breakpoint here. Why did it stop here? I don't know what happened here actually. Yeah, let's try again. Because we didn't have a breakpoint. Why did it stop? I guess because there was an incoming request, or I don't know, something happened there. Cool. By the way, guys, for all of you that have joined later, it would be totally nice if you can just take 2 seconds, just write a hello in the chat and let me know where are you watching from. That would be highly appreciated. Cool. So identity.login post. Let's send the request. Probably it will take longer to get the response. I don't know, seems the connection to my database is very slow, even though it's a local database. And yeah, we have a login here. So we got old user here, and we got this token that we can then reuse probably in the next stream to actually implement the authorization part. Actually, the authorization is already implemented in our application, but we just have to wire up authorization to our endpoints. We will need to create a new endpoint definition, but I guess what we need to also do is to kind of like create validations for these models that we have here, like the login and the user registration object. So we have to create a validation for that. So hello from Algeria. Thank you very much for joining. I'm glad to have you. I know that kind of like you are, I would say, a very experienced member of the Code Wrinkles channel. I guess you were there when we did also the live streams for ASP.NET Core for beginners. If I'm not wrong, but hopefully I'm not wrong. So yeah, once again, if you want to support the channel and the live stream, of course, the very first thing that you can do, that's pretty easy. If you didn't subscribe to the channel already, please do subscribe. Also, maybe hit the notification bell so that you are always notified when new stuff happens on this channel. And if you kind of like want to become a member of the Code Wrinkles community, you can just join our memberships using one of the memberships that we provide. You can find a join button basically just below the video window, where you also see the subscribe button, so you can just join there. Or you can even just here in the chat, you can use the super thanks. That's a button just below the comment box, and yeah, you can just say a thank you and support the chat doing it that way. So before we wrap up, I wanted to just maybe do a short recap of what we have done in this live stream. So basically, our idea was that we have already worked in other live streams earlier this year on an application that's kind of like, well, full API, like having a structure and architecture that I would probably do for real customers. And we have some functionality already implemented there. And now with the .NET 7 minimal API, so that's kind of like that's the API. Like for instance, we have here a post controller, and the idea is that we have now the .NET 7 minimal API that has some more very important features when compared to the .NET 6 version of the minimal API. And my idea was, okay, we have an API where I have validation, where I have a lot of things. Let's try to actually port that controller-based API, and let's see if we can replicate the exact same functionality using basically the minimal API. So that's the challenge, because I want to, even for myself, make up my mind if the .NET 7 minimally API is something that I could potentially use in some projects. Eser Sahin, I love this channel. Thank you very, very much, Eser. And by the way, shout out for Eser. He's also one of the members of the channel. That's why in the comment chat you see that all those that are members that have that Code Wrinkles badge associated to their username. And what's more interesting is that as their membership will grow, basically that badge will change the color. So we will know exactly which are the oldest members, let's say, of the community. So if you want to join, just also feel free to, once again, hit the join button. But shout out to Eser Sahin. Hopefully I pronounced it correctly. If not, then I'm really sorry for that. But yeah, thank you very much for supporting the channel. And yeah, I promise you that I will continue. Cool. So coming back to this is that what I said, I just wanted to actually do this on the live stream because it could be potentially, I was thinking, also a valuable experience for others that might watch, actually understand, okay, what could be potentially the challenges when we want to really create a production ready minimal API. And we started basically the last stream. There we had some problems with versioning of the automapper packages, versioning of the mediator packages. In the end, we managed to solve those problems. We started to create the structure for the minimal API, kind of like what we had today. We have created the registers, but then actually I had a problem with the streaming software, and it just quit, and I couldn't start it anymore. Basically, that stream ended very abruptly, and I'm really sorry and apologizing for that. So today in this stream, we continued and we looked into the very first endpoint, which is the identity endpoint, that we wanted to actually bring it over to our API here, because that's the very first endpoint that we need to actually get an authentication token, like a JSON web token. We have seen that both when we register and when we kind of like also log in, we get this token, and then we need to take this token and we have to use it as an authorization header for subsequent requests to other endpoints that are authorized. So they should have authorization in place. So that's why we have started with this controller, and we have ported it actually to our minimal API, and for now it was successfully. What we still have to do, and probably this will be next week, and by the way guys, I plan to do a live stream each week. Now for this week I chose this Tuesday to do it Tuesday, but I guess next week I'll probably move it to Monday. The reason for that is that also, well, Nick Chapsas also streams on Tuesday, and I don't think it's wise for me to stream during the same time with him. Yeah, but so that's why I'll move the stream. So upgraded Eser Sahin upgraded to ambassador. Okay, shout out to Eser. So he just upgraded his membership level. Thank you very much. You can find on the membership tab of the channel, if you look to the posts there, you can find a post with instructions on how you can actually get your perks as an ambassador, and yeah, you can just also join to the Discord server. And by the way, there's one other thing: all the live stream that I do or that I started to do after using or after well, implementing the memberships of the channel, all the recordings of the live streams will be available for members only. So that's the only thing. And as I have explained in the video where I have announced the memberships, for or taking into consideration the content that was already here on this channel, nothing will change. So everybody will get the exact same type of content further, like 2 or 3 videos each week. That would be totally for free, same quality, so everything will stay the same. The only thing is that for those who want to be members, there are only things that get added to what is already there. So the fact that I have introduced memberships doesn't mean that I would kind of like, I don't know, maybe neglect or don't take care about all the other subscribers. No, in fact, everything on the channel will remain exactly the same like it is right now. The only thing is that only the live streams or the recordings of the live streams will be available only for members. But other than that, everything is actually exactly the same. Now, coming back then for next time, what we want to do is into this identity endpoint, we want to add validation for this user registration thing and for this login thing. So, and once we also have the validation, I guess those endpoints are totally ready. And then the fun part will come, because then we'll go over to the post controller and we'll start to implement basically all the methods that we have here. You see that we even have authorization policy here on controller level, and yeah, basically here we can do a lot of things. We have some extensions methods on the HTTP context. By the way, I think that will also be a challenge because, but we should have access to the HTTP context through the DI, like exactly the same. Yeah, we should be able to inject the HTTP context, and then we should still be able to use similar extension methods. But then we had also filters here, for instance, when we want to validate some parameters from the route, like we want to validate that they are really parsable to GUID, and if not, we need to return an error. If yes, then we can actually go on and also validate the model. That's the validation that we will have to do. But as we'll see in the minimal API, we kind of like do this a little bit differently. If you want to take a sneak peek into all these kind of topics, I have created basically and published on Sunday a 2 hours crash course on .NET 7 minimal API, like with starting from actually blank, setting up the entire architecture and setting up really all the important parts of the minimal API, like how we define endpoints, how do we validate, how do we do global exception handling, and things like that. So if you go to the videos, that's really the last video that I have published, and you can already have a look into, well, really the basics, the fundamentals to get you started, but get you started in a correct way with the .NET 7 minimal API. And what we'll do during the stream is actually probably, because we'll need to see exactly to implement exact these use cases that we have in the regular API, this would be probably more in depth, and we'll probably also tackle some challenges that I'm not aware right now. So it will definitely be also a very, very good experience. So that's what we'll do next week on the new stream. So hope you enjoyed this one. I really hope it was useful. I, from my part, really enjoyed the fact that a lot of people were getting in touch, and that we kind of like had some very, very nice discussions ongoing here regarding different type of topics, like also technical project questions, but also more general questions on Azure certifications, maybe some basic career advice. So I have totally enjoyed the experience of this stream, and hopefully I will be able, or hopefully you will join also next week in the stream, and hopefully it will be the exact same atmosphere that we had today. So I would totally appreciate that. Yeah, this being said, I guess that's a wrap for today after 2 hours and 20 minutes. Once again, thank you very, very much for joining. I wish you really a great evening or a great day, depending on the time zone where you are, or a good night, where if you are in the time zone with me, I probably go to sleep very, very soon. So yeah, thank you very much, and yeah, enjoy your day, and yeah, keep in touch.